everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another one of our weekly The World's Finest Assassin Gets Reincarnated in Another World as an Aristocrat videos. Today we're going to be talking all about Episode 9, Compensation of Assassination. Almost said the whole thing correctly that time. But with that said, before we get into today's video proper, go ahead and make sure that you hit that like button, make sure you hit subscribe, ring the bell, set notifications to all, and let all of AnyTube know that you are here. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump right into this thing. So I want to start by pointing out how weird it is that we start by, we don't start, but we see yet another reincarnated individual. And listen, I'm not going to lie, starting to question the goddess's judgment a little bit. You know, I was vibing with, like, the world's finest assassin. I'm like, that makes sense. And then the world's finest, like, fighter. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And then the world's finest rapper. Okay, that was a little weird. And now the world's finest paparazzi. It's a little weird. It's a little strange. Was that a Bakio Seiyu, by the way? I couldn't tell. I was like, I know this voice. I can't pinpoint who it is. But I was like, I recognize this voice. But yeah, that was a little bit of a surprise. World's finest paparazzi, was not expecting that. But hey, sometimes it's fun to be surprised. And so he you know what? On one hand, I do think it's weird, but on the other hand, you know what? I gotta hand it to the goddess. I will say I didn't really think about it, but the more I thought about it after the episode, because during the episode I'm like, that was weird, and then after the episode I'm like, well, you know what? It could have worked. It could have, right? If the paparazzi was able to make the hero look bad, then the public wouldn't be rooting for them, and then maybe there's a good chance that they might not have become the hero, because society wouldn't have liked them, and why would they help? So, in a weird way, she was kind of onto something. I mean, the guy gets run over by a horse, so, you know, not the most pleasant of exits, but, you know, almost worked. But yeah, there's two major things that I want to talk about this week. Not the paparazzi thing. I just thought I'd bring it up because it was funny. But there's two major things I want to talk about this week. The biggest one is, of course, Lugh's first solo assassination. I say solo in air quotes. But also I want to talk a bit about Lugh's sexuality as well. I'll save that for the end. We know a little bit more about Lugh now, which kind of changes my opinion from last week. But I do want to talk about Lugh's solo assassination, right? So Lugh, when told about the Count, seems genuinely pretty disgusted with him, which is interesting, right? Because the Lugh that we know normally doesn't have these sorts of feelings, right? He doesn't really care one way or the other about his assassination targets. He's always been a tool, right? Like, our Lugh has always been a tool, and now that he's a Tuahade, he is starting to be able to choose what he wants to do, right? Like, his father gives him a mission, he can choose whether or not he does it, he can choose whether or not he kills them. It's up to him now. And in fairness, when he hears what the Count has done, it makes him upset, and the more that we see of the Count, he's a real slippery slime ball, this guy. So the more Lugh spends getting Maha to research him, the more he spends watching him, the more and more he's pretty convinced that, like, this is the right thing to do. You know, because the guy essentially is real slippery. Like, he goes in, he operates beyond the king's jurisdiction, so he can't really do anything. The law can't touch him, and he's a real sleazeball about it, right? Like, the things that he's doing to the town is just like, the people of I believe it's Pyseer. The people of Pyseer, like, it's the second biggest market town, right? Like, it's the second biggest, like, trading town, and yet the people are completely wrecked, right? Like, a war and Vizin, which is a drug, has completely wrecked the people of Pyseer in this universe, right? And they're put in this position where they're essentially sort of being targeted, right? Like, we see this girl selling jam, but really the jam is Vizin, right? Like, the jam is, like, essentially like a ruse to get you hooked on Vizin, right? Like, and she doesn't want to do this, but she's sort of roped into it because she needs to help her mom, and her mom needs the Vizin, right? It's actually, like, in her system. Now, thankfully, Lugh is able to stop it, and, like, Lugh gets it out of this girl's mom's system, but it's still, like, a horrible thing that this guy is putting these people through. And so Lugh really is in his right to think that this guy's like a slippery douche, right? Like he's escaping the law, he's doing horrible things. He has every right to think that, right? He has every right to think that this guy is a monster. And it takes the entire episode for us to get to the conclusion of it, where Lugh, like, he sees this guy and he feels comfortable in like saying like, yeah, this guy is this city is better off without him. Pycere will actually probably be a better place with this guy gone. So, you know, he takes the shot and he takes this guy out. And there's this beautiful shot where like the wine is sort of like mixed. This guy was drinking wine at the time, looking up at the moon, so he hits the ground and the wine is mixed with his blood. It was a great scene. I don't mean it was a great scene as in like, yeah, but I mean like it was just beautifully, I don't want to say shot, but beautifully, shot. Like beautifully, like the cinematography was great, and like the way it was handled was great direction. But the thing is, it's not all it seems, because during that time, Lugh meets Count Venkar's wife. And Count Venkar's wife seemingly has absolutely no idea what her husband is up to. And she tells them that like they were poor nobles up until a few years ago. She's not entirely sure what it is that his work is, but she knows that it's like it's obviously paying for the bills. And you could see like genuine love in her eyes when her husband walks in. She truly cares about him. So when Lugh does what he ultimately feels as though he has to do, and he gets up to go, his eyes are still, like, he still has the Tuatha eyes, right? So he still sees her on the balcony, and he sees that she's seen her husband, and she's like cradling him and crying, and Lugh feels genuine sorrow over what he's done. For likely the first time in his life, he has ever felt genuinely bad about an assassination. And what I love, again, the direction in this episode was fantastic. But again, you see him like he's looking at the body, and you see like Lugh in present day, and then you see his past self like staring at himself, like looking at what he's done. And it's this beautiful shot where it's the two versions of him having sort of different reactions, but both sort of agree, like under the understanding that what's happened is really sad. Like it's seeing both versions of him acknowledge that he's not the tool that he used to be anymore. So sometimes these assassinations, they're gonna hurt. Like the wife's reaction was genuinely heartbreaking for Lugh, but he still feels no regrets. The city is likely going to be better without this guy running around, but that doesn't change the fact that what he's done is, you know, it's obviously going to tear this woman apart. It's really heavy stuff. And I will say, like, the way that this series does not shy away from heavier subjects is so impressive for a show that could have very easily just been like, cool assassin does cool assassin things, without really going into like world building or like character growth, you know? Like they actually do spend a lot of time growing Lugh as a character. He is genuinely, I've said this before and I'll say it again, he's one of like the better isekai protagonists that we've seen, and it really bums me out that so many people just see him as like, oh, he's a Gary Stu, but he's really not. Like he's a really interesting character. And on top of that, you get a lot of like world building in this show where it's very heavy, but it never feels like it's reveling in it, you know? Like you never feel like you're supposed to be like, quote unquote, getting off in any kind of way over what's happening. It's not misery. It's not misery prawn, you know? Like it actually feels like it's trying to build this world and remind you that there's some darkness in here, and that's what the Tuatha are there for. They are doctors to the king, but also the kingdom. And that means taking out the bad that's in the kingdom that's poisoning it, which means you're going to see some dark stuff in this show. And seeing Lugh go through that, I just thought it was really, really well handled. And also Maha's here. That was cool too. But the other thing that I want to talk about this week, very quickly, is I do want to address Lugh's sexuality. Because, yeah, so it's not quite what I thought last week. So Lugh Lugh's mom is weird. Again, I'm not gonna lie, this character bugs me. I don't like the mom. She's like the one character in the show that like kind of hurts the show for me, where every time she shows up I'm like, oh god, go away. I know some people like her. I just don't. She just kind of bugs me. She doesn't like ruin the show for me or anything, like nothing like that. It's just sort of when she shows up I'm like, no, go away. So she's just being hella weird. Like, just the things that she's saying to Lugh is like, as his mom is just weird. I don't like that at all. But I'm watching it and I'm like, well, you know, I'm watching it with this lens that like Lugh is Ace, right? And I'm looking at it and he refers to the incident from the 1 week as the darkest point in his past. And I was like, Ace boy. That gave me big Ace vibes. The fact that anything sexual he can, that the one thing sexual that we've seen from him, he refers to as his darkest point in his past. So I was like, maybe Lugh really doesn't like this stuff. Like maybe Lugh, the body is like, as we know, is like in their teens. So the body is like going through changes. But the soul, like the spirit that is Lugh, the guy we know from our world, could have been Ace, and so he's in this body that is not, so he's like sort of getting like conflicting feelings. But no, because essentially what ends up happening is Maha explains that Lugh would often, well, not often, but Lugh would go and blow off steam at brothels, and it would really upset Tart. And I was expecting Lugh to be like, I never went to a brothel, right? But no, he never denies this. So Lugh, in canon, went to brothels occasionally to blow off steam. So not Ace. Very much not Ace. Because the thing is, like, Ace can be either repulsed by or disinterested in doing the horizontal hustle, right? So I was like, okay, so either repulsed by or not interested in. But if Lugh is actively going to blow off steam in brothels, pretty friggin' unlikely that he's Ace. So Lugh's straight. Not that being Ace would mean that you're not straight romantically, because there's a difference between sexual attraction and romantic attraction. But Lugh is sexually active, I guess we'll say. Lugh is not Ace. Would have been cool. Would have been nice. But no, Lugh is in fact not Ace. But also, speaking of stuff like this, I should kind of want to dig into the fact that Lugh's mom is, again, like, just kind of weird, but, like, also is, like, forcing Lugh into an arranged marriage. And it's funny, because you could tell how much more Lugh trusts Kian, like, his father, where he tells him that he's going to marry Dia, right? And he's like, aha, I knew you were too good to be true, right? But then Lugh, again, like, I do agree with people in the comments where it was, like, half that he actually liked Dia, but also half that he was just kind of, like, Dia was the better choice. That way he didn't have to marry someone random. You know, like, so it's, like, it's beneficial for him, but also, like, he likes Dia like that. But I still don't like that. Like, I will never like that. Like, not Dia, because I like Dia as, like, a character. But, like, this and mine from Bookworm, I just don't like when adults get reincarnated into kids, and then as they're like teenagers and kids, they have like romantic attractions. No, I don't like that. Like, I know people say like, but they're a kid now. No, because they still have the mental, they still have all the memories and the mental capacity of an adult. So no, I don't like it. But hey, that's a me thing. I don't like it. I think it's weird. But that's me, right? But Lugh's mom, like, settling on Tart and making her all uncomfortable. I felt really bad for Tart this whole episode, if I'm honest. Like, the way that Tart kind of gets, like, treated this week was really, like, I was like, man, I feel real bad for Tart. Like, I'm not, like, a big Tart fan. I'm more of a Maha fan. But I was like, man, poor Tart. Like, the whole time she's just getting, like, flustered and embarrassed. And then, like, Maha talks about her like she's she's lovelorn and, like, has no clue what she's doing. And that she gets, like, sad and petty when he's off, like, with Dia or at a brothel or something. And, like, I love Maha, but, like, she is very wise. But in this case, I was like, that's really bad advice. When she's like, you should have a mistress or two. I'm like, why? Like, because she's like, you're a noble, you should have a mistress or two. Not every noble has a mistress. At least not to my knowledge. Kian doesn't. Again, to my knowledge. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. Lugh doesn't need to do that. Like, I get that it's a harem anime. Well, it's not a harem anime, but he has a harem. But, like, it's not needed. It's not necessary. It's weird. I don't like it. No, sir, I don't like it. But the idea of Ace Lugh was cool while it lasted. I did enjoy it while it was there. Doesn't make Lugh any worse of a character. I still think he's a dope character. It just would have been cool. Maha, still wise. I just don't agree with her on that point. Tart, I like. I think Tart's cool. The mom, still weird. And Kian's still great. And that's everything. Yeah, that's it. Outro. And that's going to do it for another video for this week, everybody. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to boop that up snoot, share if you care, leave a comment down below, and of course, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and set notifications to all. Let all of AniTube know that you are here. And before we go, as always, I have to give a big, big thank you to my wonderful masters who help keep this channel afloat. And of course, I have to give a special thank you to the Masters of Masters. And they are Izevi, Asaki VT, Elizabeth Just Elizabeth, JCran23, Jeremy P, Matt87 Eagle, Shadow Creative, Shiorans, Stephen G, Stevie W, Trapmaster, Trevor W, and Tristan G. Thank you all so much for your continued support. It means the world to me, and if you too would like to see your name scrolling past the screen, or maybe have your voice shouted out at the end of these videos, be sure to check out that link in the description to our Patreon page, or you can hit the join button right beside the sub button. Either way helps out tremendously, and I thank you a lot for it. And yeah, that's it for me. So, until next time, make sure you clean your room. It's filthy. Seriously, a clean room is a clean mind. Just think about it, okay? Anyway, bye.